Guests in my podcast are like my coffee, strong, flavorful, and they always brighten my day. We have amazing conversations over coffee. We cover everything from growth to inspiring communities, empowering customers, and sharing exceptional leadership moments. In this season, we're hosting incredible leaders whose journeys inspired me to keep growing and learning every day. I'm Imane, and I welcome you to my podcast, Coffee with Me, Leaders of Change. Welcome to another action-packed episode of my video podcast. Today, we're spotlighting a very exciting startup from Australia, Thriday, founded in 2020 by visionary co-founders Michael Nuciforo and Ben Winford. Thriday is on a bold mission to transform the way business owners handle financial admin, saving them time and giving them back control. In the hot seat today, I have not just one, but two powerhouses from Thriday, CEO and co-founder Michael and CTO Warren. Together, they'll share their journey, insight, and how they're shaping the future for small businesses. Ready to dive in? Let's get started. Welcome, Michael. Welcome, Warren. Excited to have you here in the podcast. I met you last year in Melbourne when we discussed about Thriday and what we do with Microsoft. And I was just impressed of your purpose and mission. And I'm really excited to have you here today.
We're excited to share our story.
Of course, we will start right into it. Michael, you started in 2019 with Thriday with your co-founder, Ben. Tell us a little bit more about your journey and why Thriday.
So Thriday was really the convergence of three experiences in my life and then randomly basketball.
Okay.
So the first thing is I grew up in a migrant family in Australia. So a lot of my big Italian family, and everyone in my family usually ran businesses. And I think sort of during my childhood, being around the dinner table, seeing the conversations amongst family was always about business.
Wow.
There was the good times, there was the bad times. And I think growing up, I sort of just expected everyone to understand the challenges that business owners have, but many people don't. They don't understand it. They've never experienced it. And these people, they up at 6 a.m, they're the last people to go to sleep. Those challenges really sort of stuck with me as I grew up, to the point that actually my parents discouraged me from starting a business initially because they wanted me to have that security of, working a corporate job. So that then led into the second experience that I had. So I actually joined a large bank in Australia, and I ended up becoming the head of mobile banking at a large bank in the UK. And we would do focus groups and research with our customers, and our small business owners would always come to us asking for more. And the way that most banks are structured is they're primarily retail customer focused, and the small businesses are often the last that they care about. They're underserved, underappreciated as well. That actually became a frustration for me because of the experiences I had growing up. So I thought there has to be more that we can do for these businesses, but we were never able to really get that momentum internally and the investment slate to do that work. And then the third thing is I decided to start my own business. So after a corporate career of sort of 10 to 12 years, this sort of itch just kept coming back to me.
It's in your DNA.
Exactly. And I decided to do a startup, which was a parking app. This was before Thriday. And I was then the person dealing with the headaches of running a business, dealing with the financial admin, ringing up my accountant, trying to get clarity on taxes and what I needed to do. I was using this software that is, sort of very commonly used at the moment, but it was just so difficult. And they're primarily designed actually for the accountant, not for the business owner. So those three things then ended up converging. I moved to New York for a period. And there was a group of expats, and we would go and play basketball. And Ben and I met, so Ben, my co-founder, and we started to chat about these ideas that we had. And we both actually had this passion. Ben came from a family of business owners as well. So we really wanted to tackle this problem of taking away actually the work that business owners had to do in the back office so that they could actually focus on their customers and growing their business. I think with any business like this, you have to be absolutely passionate about your mission because there's going to be up and down days. And I think for me, every time I'm having a difficult day, I think back to those conversations that I heard around the dinner table. And I think about all the families that are going through that as well. I love small businesses. I love my local pizza restaurant. I love my local coffee shop. I want those businesses to thrive. And that's the mission behind Thriday. So our name actually comes from thrive every day, because we want those businesses that are out there offering those services, making their customers happy, to be able to thrive through having good financial admin.
That's wonderful. Thrive every day.
Yes.
That is impressive. And 5 years on, how do you feel about Thriday and Thrive every day now? And how do you think the next 5 years will be?
So when we started Thriday, we thought it was quite an ambitious vision to combine banking, accounting, invoicing, tax, essentially a super app for small businesses. And a lot of the people that we presented to about the concept, they thought, with most startups, you're encouraged to focus on a particular vertical or silo and really niche. But we always had that big vision. And incredibly, after 5 years, our ambition has gone up another level, because now that we know more about their needs, more about their pain, more about the love that they have for our platform as well, it's just made us more ambitious about where we want to take it. And I think also the technology has become more accessible for us to keep innovating and take it to another level. So I think 4 or 5 years ago, we thought about automation in terms of simplifying or maybe automating a handful of manual processes. But now it feels like we can automate everything so that the business doesn't need to touch a finger when it comes to doing the financial admin. Also, from a global perspective, it's now easier and easier to think about how you can take this and scale it into multiple markets. So that's why we're here. We're here chatting to organizations here in other markets, because we want to take this globally and we want to solve this problem for the hundreds and hundreds of millions of businesses that suffer from this every day.
That's absolutely wonderful. When we talk about Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, Africa,
yes,
the small
absolutely.
businesses are the backbone of their economies.
Correct.
That is impressive. Talking about technology, Warren is the technologist here. He was mentioning to me about AI and machine learning and everything platform related. You started the platform August 2020. It's gone live 2022. That's really impressive to get it live in less than 2 years. Tell us a little bit more about your experience in that, and how is it going right now?
I'm originally from South Africa, and I spent a long time there doing software engineering, primarily at banks. When I went to Australia in 2019, I started working at a credit bureau. It was interesting for me to see the sort of correlation with the mindset of being a little bit risk averse and not wanting to innovate as much. At the same time, I also saw a gap in the sort of product thinking where the tools and technologies in an organization that's large, like an enterprise or a bank, specifically around Microsoft technologies, they weren't being leveraged to their full potential because they were being installed as point solutions, and they missed out on the trick of combining them into a synergistic whole. It was one of those afternoons where I was just frustrated at the state of things, when Michael called me up out the blue and said, I'm looking for a good CTO. I've just got an idea for a startup. How would you feel about building a fintech from the ground up?
I would say yes.
And I was just like, yeah, I'm up for that. Let's do that. So it was an easy call.
Give me a playground. Let me play.
As we started Thriday, everything was just ideation on a piece of paper. And one of the first things I did for Michael and Ben was say, well, I'm going to come up with a platform architecture on paper that we have to build, and I'm going to cost it out, look at vendors, partners, that sort of technology roadmap. Obviously, if you're going to start a platform in this day and age and you're a startup, you're probably going to go in cloud, with a cloud vendor, and there's one of 3 to choose from. Fortunately for me, it was an easy decision to go with Microsoft for 2 reasons. The one was I was able to leverage my trust network in the Microsoft world. I didn't know a lot of people in Australia and New Zealand region at all, but I would reach out to the people in Middle East, Africa, Europe, and say, who do you know here? Can you connect me? With a warm intro, and they did. And that's how I got us into the Microsoft for Startups program. It was just through warm referrals and references. We weren't actually technically at the stage where they would like to put us on that program, because we were sort of pre-seed level. We didn't have a lot of funding or investment, and they needed a certain level of product, having taken shape and some investment. But the idea that we had was so good, and my vision for how to use their technologies to drive it forward was so clear, and I had such a good plan that they said, well, we're just going to get you on anyway and shortcut that. They applied and it was approved. Wow. And we got onto the startup program. That gave us a ton of benefits as a startup. The most obvious one is the credits that you get for building a platform in Azure, but it's the technical support, the well-architected, reference to the CSAs, all that kind of support, licensing that you get. It helps a lot.
As Michael mentioned, there is AI and machine learning and Gen AI and all the exciting technology that's happening right now. How do you see the next evolution of the platform coming up?
In the early days on the technical roadmap, this is about the end of 2020, beginning of 21, our plan for AI was there. It would be incorporated everywhere, but it wasn't super clear. So we focused on what we knew well at that stage. This was before the advent of Gen AI and LLMs, before the big breakthroughs and ChatGPT. We were just working with traditional machine learning models, which were widely available. And we used those to augment our data accuracy and enhancement process across the platform we were building. And it was good. And then around about the same time, 2021, there was this breakthrough in LLMs and generative tech. And while not available to the public directly, there was a lot of commoditization of the cognitive services. So particularly in Azure, there were cognitive services based on computer vision, speech recognition, document intelligence. And we leveraged those early on. And so what we did is we used a combination of traditional machine learning models, these cognitive services, and a lot of secret sauce. And we put that together into a thread and framework which supports everything in our platform and weaves it together into this double entry bookkeeping system. So this double entry bookkeeping system is like an invisible fabric behind all the features in Thriday. And at each step of reconciling a receipt or sending an invoice or updating a chart of accounts, it's updating that in real time and adjusting it according to your tax profile. Now we call that engine, that capability, Luca. And Luca is named after Luca Pacioli, the inventor of double entry bookkeeping. Again, having originated before this big breakthrough with the co-pilot type of experience of generative AI is running along. And now that we're in that era of having access to OpenAI services and LLMs and the more public-facing version of what we call a co-pilot, which we haven't completely rolled that out yet because that wasn't actually the focus. A lot of companies, the mistake they make is they jump into this generative AI stuff and they just provide a public-facing channel via, say, a chatbot, and it'll just look up some information or return a lot of data very quickly. It's got some smarts, but does it really add value to the customer when they're doing their business accounting work in Thriday? So what we decided to do was first focus on some use cases. We're working behind the scenes. We call them helper functions, and they're invisible to the customer, but they're using generative AI, and they're new into our stack. And what they're doing is they're adding value in terms of if you're searching for a business, we can direct you to a match to classify a type of business for tax purposes. Or if you're entering an address, we've had a lot of problems with some of the partners with address formatting and matching. And it's a very manual thing to resolve. And now we've got a learning model that automatically adjusts those addresses into the correct formats. There's no mismatches. And all these little helper functions are just making everyone's life easier, less errors for the customer. And that's adding the immediate value. And we are working on the public-facing co-pilot, but we want to stand out. We want to have a co-pilot that adds real value and does a lot more work and helps people create and generate an invoice and do things. And so that's still under wraps.
That's
but
amazing.
We've got a lot of plans for the platform.
That is so impressive. And my next question was for Michael was what makes Thriday stand out? And one of them is very much probably the technology. What else?
It's automation, automation, and automation. The reason it's automation is because, frankly, these business owners, they don't want to do this work.
Yeah.
It's the last thing they want to do. And it's usually the thing they have to do on a Friday night or Saturday night. And automation is important because one of the things Warren mentioned, and one of the reasons that we were so conscious of giving a name and a brand to our automation, Luca, is because it's so easy to forget that it's happening. And I think it's also important that you couple automation with communication. So all these things are happening in the background, but if the customer doesn't realize, they're not actually valuing it or they're not understanding actually what's happening. So what we've done really well, and I think this is also important for coming back to digital natives, say, versus older demographic, is that you definitely have to be able to show these people that these things are happening so they understand and that they get the comfort and peace of mind as well that these things are happening. So we have an inbox that we constantly are pinging these customers and telling them we've just automatically reconciled this receipt. We've automatically lodged your tax to the tax office. We've automatically categorized this transaction. And I think that's become one of the things that people really love about our platform. And I think it's important that anyone who's going down this journey, especially if you're not offering just a chatbot, for example. Obviously, a chatbot's a very physical thing that you can see and interact with, is to make sure that you're communicating and essentially branding the value-added services that you're providing behind the scenes, because it is easy for people to forget. I think the other thing from Thriday's perspective is that we're a full end-to-end solution. So on one end, you have a place to store your earnings and pay for goods, which is our banking capability. Then you've got your bookkeeping, accounting, Then you've got your invoicing and payments. So that's, again, ability for people to earn income and then pay their suppliers. But the key thing that we do, which is a little bit like, we like to say internally, closing the loop, is that all of that would be awesome, but it's not as awesome than if you have to still go and manually go to an accountant to lodge your tax. So we've actually done an integration into the Australian tax office so that when those things are due, which is typically quarterly in Australia and obviously at the end of the year, we just say, hey, Imane, your tax is ready. This is how much you're going to get back, or this is how much is due. Do you want to lodge it to the tax office?
Wow.
And it's done. From our perspective, we actually track what that means for customers. And through surveys that we conducted with customers, they typically spend about 5 hours a week on all of this work. Once they join Thriday, they spend between 30 to 45 minutes a week. So that's 4 to 5 hours of extra time that these businesses have. And at its core, Thriday then is a productivity tool.
100%.
It's a tool that they're saving time and they can use that to spend or invest in their business. Or more importantly, I know I've got 2 kids. It's time to go home and spend some time with the family.
You mentioned the automation and communication. Being a Moroccan and in French we say loin des yeux, loin du cœur, which means far from the eyes, far from the heart. So if you don't see it, if it's not physical, unfortunately you tend to forget it. And you're leveraging that communication to make your customers feel as if they are part of the development team, because they are seeing what's happening behind the scene, and that excites them. I love it. This is a really great masterclass for new entrepreneurs. Yes, you automate. Yes, it's everything behind the scene. Nobody feels it unless it's down, and then everyone is feeling the pain. But we don't want the customers to feel the pain when it's down. We want them to know what's going on. And they are earning productivity thanks to Luca. They need to be grateful to Luca because now they can go to their kids and play with their kids. That's really amazing. I absolutely think this stands out.
We do have pretty good customer feedback in terms of the CES and NPS scores.
Nice.
It's early days, but it's looking very good. And the last thing I'll close with is just to answer the last part of your question about AI and where I see it going in the future. It was an interesting conversation I had at one of the AI tours last year. There's a lot of innovation in the space. Everyone knows about this. A lot of companies are competing for generative AI and large language model services. I think the biggest mistake any incumbent in the market would make right now is to try and replicate that and build on top, try and improve, because you're not going to outpace the big giants in the tech industry right now with these models they provide. What you need to do is figure out a way to customize and enhance on top of them and build services on top of them to make them valuable. They've given you the Lego set, you need to figure out how to cobble it together, and you can do it a lot better than your competitors without the instruction manual, because you don't get one. So it's how innovative are you with these services. Don't try and build it from scratch. Don't try and build the next ChatGPT. Build on top of that and add value.
I had so many conversations with a lot of, early adopters and customers and within the tech ecosystem, and they would say, oh my God, we want to build our next LLM.
Don't do that.
Do not do that. There are so many great LLMs. Leverage the ecosystem and be smart, work smarter and innovate smarter, which is really great. Now, going back to the inspiration and leadership and all that, we have many startups coming up and AI companies and AI startups, and you have exciting entrepreneurs and founders coming. What would be your advice to the new generation of founders or first-time founders and entrepreneurs, Michael and Warren?
I think the first thing is you have to have a North Star or a mission, and you have to construct, I think, in a lot of detail, how you run your business around that. So to give some practical examples, everything from creating a set of values should be linked to that mission, to the types of people you hire, and I guess the characteristics of those people. One of the things we do, for example, is we're always interested in how people feel about small business. When they join, we have a set of questions that we ask them, in the sense that we want to do a little bit of a Q&A. So here's a new joiner, this is a little bit about them. One of the questions we always ask, what is your favorite small business? As an example. So we try to integrate that mission of automating the back office for small business into everything we do. And I think what we do really well is that when we talk about business, we talk about them with a reverence. We talk about them as superheroes. Our brand and our logo, if you've seen it, is intended to look like a superhero logo. We weave that in through everything we do. And I think it also means that in the unfortunate situations where someone for example, does join, we relatively quickly can find out that they're not maybe the right fit for us because we're so clear on what's important to us as a business. Technically as well, as you know, when I was looking for a CTO, which is another interesting story.
I'm keen to know the story. Go ahead.
Okay, so I knew when we started Thriday that we needed a really highly competent technical team, right?
Yes.
And so the first thing, I actually went to the point of, talking to sort of my peers and friends of saying that if I can't find the right CTO, I won't do Thriday. I've had people come to me for years say, how do you find a technical co-founder? And how I did it, which makes Warren still laughs about it, but basically what I did was I sort of identified, luckily I had I've got a product management background. So I knew some of the skills that I was looking at. I needed somebody who'd worked on large platforms, somebody that had international experience, someone that had an architecture background as well, because I knew there was complexity in architecting the platform. Security. So I sort of had a list of criteria, went into LinkedIn, literally just scanned. Literally pulled, I think it was, how many, 400? So I think I told you this once, but I pulled the top 400 people I could find into a spreadsheet, started contacting them. Obviously, X% of them replied. X% of them I thought were interesting. X% of them I managed to get a coffee with. Thankfully, one of them that got back to me was Warren.
You are
so anyone who says how
out of 400 top.
Well, maybe I was fortunate that I was top of the list.
That is amazing.
And so anyone who's wondering how to do it, if you really want something, that's the level you need to get
Michael, you've got to do the work.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's something that, sometimes this new generation or the founders, they think, I've got an idea, the work will be easy. No, you've got to do the work.
Correct. And you make your own luck, I consider it lucky we met, but if I hadn't done that work, we wouldn't have met. As simple as that.
I think in your previous startup, when you were on Shark Tank, one of the things they told you was get a technical partner early. And so you took that lesson.
Correct. That flows through everything. So, and also I think one of the things we do really well is we work with the team members to understand what their goals are, and I think you find that happy medium where people are satisfied with the work they're currently doing, but they also understand a pathway to where they're going to go in that organisation. And even though we're a relatively small business in terms of the size of people we have, I think a lot of the team have a really clear view about what my goals are today and what they'll be in the future.
We call it a thriving score. And, thrive every day is your mission. I'm really sure and confident that your employees are thriving. Your thriving scores will be through the roof. Yes, it's a small organization, but it's an organization with a mission, with values, and with common North Star.
And that's actually one of my passions with running a business, is employing people. A lot of people might think about the financial reward of running a business or the challenge of running a business, or obviously the mission. The mission's the most important. And I would say second to me is actually giving people fulfilling careers. I always think about this, that hopefully one day I'm having a coffee somewhere, I bump into an ex-colleague and they say, I love those 10 years I spent at Thriday. That's so important to me. That also means there's pressure, because I want this business to succeed so that they get the fulfillment of that as well. But that combination of the mission and working with excellent staff is, just a dream for me every day.
Impressive. And to all the new startups and founders, this is a masterclass. Warren, as a technologist, what would you tell a new technologists and CTOs of brand new startups coming up?
My advice to them would be start with your platform solution shaping and sort of architecture vision, and make sure you strongly connect with the product team to align on their product roadmap and where they want to go. Look at your capabilities, look at your team. Even if it's small, you probably just have 1 or 2 people. You're going to have to wear a lot of hats. So start looking at that roadmap of where technology and product is going to go in the next year to plan for that. Then look at your capabilities in the team. If you're going to start hiring, you're probably going to have a limited budget, so spend wisely. My success was to very early on surround myself with what I call my trust network. So I reached out to longtime colleagues, people I know, trust, and I fortunately pretty easily convinced them to leave, in some cases, their jobs at banks, very lucrative careers, to join a startup, which isn't easy, but because they believed in the vision that Michael had and the technology roadmap I had and the support, they saw this as a definite opportunity. And so I managed to convince several of them to leave and join us. And so the advantage for me there was I had a solid platform build technology roadmap aligned with a product roadmap. I had a very solid technical team coming in with immediate trust. There's no getting to know how you work. Do we gel? There's just, I get that done and come back to me when you're finished. I know you for a long time. It's amazing to have that. We were also approached by, we still do work with some partner organizations that supplement our workforce with outsourced technical talent. But one of the good decisions I think we made was to put key people in the org chart underneath the technical stream, which is big, right? If you look at our org chart, it's very technical heavy because we're a tech shop. And there's certain leads that report into my role in different streams, channels, front end, middleware, data. For Yao's team as well, there's a chief data officer, and he's got a team. And all of those leads under us are full-time. They're Thridayers. Right? They work for the organization, and they're in charge, and they get the vision. And then if we have supplemented that with outsourcing, the insourcing component drives the vision down to everyone. So it works very well. It's a mixture. So I would say that and your resourcing, and then look at who you're partnering with. If you're a fintech, you're going to integrate with someone, a big bank or another partner. Make sure you understand what's required on that end. A lot of startups will sort of develop a fintech solution for the first time, maybe partner with a bank, but because they haven't worked with banks before, they don't realize the mountain of red tape, regulatory compliance, things you have to, security standards, things you have to comply with, and then it sort of upends their whole plan. Even their technology roadmap wouldn't have catered for some of those. I mean, my experience with banks got me to a good place in being realistic about, I'm going to spend a lot more than I think to secure this platform, to pass their penetration testing and other requirements. And even with that, there were some surprises where they said, you can't do that. And I was, well, I've only budgeted this many thousands of dollars for the service, and I need the ultra deluxe version of the service to satisfy you. So I go back to Michael and go, we need more budget. So do that planning up front. Think about security requirements, external certifications, like ISO 27001, make sure you get up to get that, and use tools and services that are out there, and even consultants that can help you get there quickly.
Love it. And I love the conversation. I know we're short of time. Final parting words from both of you before we close the episode.
I think that small businesses have been underserved across various verticals for many years. Finally now, I think people are starting to recognise the opportunity, the millions, as you said, millions and millions of business owners around the world who are such a huge part of the economy, contribute so significantly to GDP. And I think more and more from a macro trend, more and more people will run a business. Even if they're employed, they'll have their side hustle, they'll have their little gig that they're doing on the side. That opportunity is significant, and it's something that motivates us every day. And I think as part of the vision for Thriday, and I think for it, I guess from any founder's perspective, is you want to hold yourself and your team to that vision every day. So get into it, speak to your customers, and then I guess find those little areas that you think you can, help them through those challenges with.
I love that. The fact that you come from a business owner's background also helps you have this empathy with your customers, and that's really important because you feel their pain. You have that empathy, and it's really critical for business. Love it. Warren?
We want our customers to succeed. And so, one of the goals we have a company is to eliminate financial admin. And we do that internally as well. Any waste, anything we do that's not going to help customers thrive or do anything productive is scrapped. And I think people appreciate that when they see and work with us. And one of the questions you had that was interesting was, what would you go back and say to your 5-year younger self? And one of the things I would go do is say to myself, buy more cryptocurrency. Definitely spend more time with your family. Have a work-life balance. Don't ride the roller coaster, and the emotions of up and down as you're going through a startup, because that's trying. And one of the tips I got from Michael was actually using your calendar, email calendar, to organize your to-do list. It's one thing having a to-do list, nothing blocking out the time to do those things. So that's a pro tip that helped me a lot. One of the things I enjoy most about working in a startup is the other startup founders and people that have exited that I've been introduced to. I've built up such a good network of people that have been mentors and advisors and just love talking to us. And some of them have said to us, we remember when we were in your shoes, and we're actually kind of jealous because it's so invigorating. I said, yeah, but it's stressful. And
it's the adrenaline.
Yeah. So it's just being part of that ecosystem, and it's such a great environment to be in when you're in startups that I think it's very difficult to go back to a corporate ever again. It's good to have that combination of skills. I would say it's great to start your career in a corporate, go to a startup, experience that, and then even go back to a corporate and change it for the better internally.
Thank you. Amen for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I truly love the conversation. And thank you all for watching.